outreach with the vaccines in the Black community, the numbers are really, they're just not progressing. But what is their plan to try to get to some of these children? We have to look for some of those new angles for these other communities that may not be getting the service that they need.
The reality is, how do you go about changing somebody's belief, whether true or not? That's the issue here.
That, my friends, is a behind-the-scenes look at media propaganda posing as journalism. I am the Fox 26 whistleblower who called out Fox Corp live on air this summer for much of their propaganda. And this example of footage that nobody's seen yet is important to see and notice in regards to the shots. I wanted to get this footage out to you guys now on the week that the CDC is talking about a fourth shot for adults and the FDA is giving the okay for a first shot for 5-year-olds. It is important to know the media's role in this because Fox, of course, is not the only one. The media, who are supposed to be the watchdogs, keeping their loyalty to the viewers and their concerns and their best interests, are instead turning a blind eye and arranging their loyalty with these federal agencies and with these shot companies. Okay, I want you guys to see this footage that, by the way, I sent to Project Veritas, but they never aired. This footage was recorded in May of this year. I sent them a lot of footage, so this stuff didn't make the cut, but it is key to see. Before we get into this footage, I want to first shout out the sponsor of this video, which is helping me remain an independent journalist. Health with Ivory. Collagen sales have been surging for the past 2 years. This isn't for no reason. Collagen is becoming well known for its anti-aging abilities. You only have to do one thing to look younger, and that is take collagen, but there is a problem. Most collagen supplements out there don't work. The secret is ageless multi-collagen. Health with Ivory is the most effective collagen for anti-aging out there, in my opinion. Thousands of users agree that they notice their skin looking and feeling younger after routinely taking it. Men also report increasing muscle mass. I did it firmed up my body too. I mean, collagen is all protein. It is the best anti-aging supplement that I have tried. The reason Health with Ivory works is because it uses 5 types of high quality collagen instead of 1. If you want to improve your skin, hair, and nails, you need this. If you've been looking for a way to reduce the appearance of wrinkles, you will love Health with Ivory. Get 51% off Health with Ivory for the next 24 hours by going to healthwithivory.com or by clicking the link below in the description. Okay, before I roll this clip of my bosses at Fox, former bosses now, strategizing on how to brainwash you to get something in your arm, rather than what are your concerns, what are your values and concerns and thoughts, and let's keep our loyalty to the viewers and see what's really beneficial and necessary for them. The bosses already had their minds made up, and then it was just about persuading you, which is the definition of propaganda in journalism school. I have my favorite J School book here. Required reading at Syracuse was The Elements of Journalism. Yes, I am a Syracuse Newhouse broadcast journalism graduate. Okay, so what it says here, it breaks down the different kinds of information dissemination, and it starts with entertainment. It says entertainment and its cousin infotainment focuses on what is most diverting. Propaganda selects facts or invents them to serve the real purpose, persuasion and manipulation. And that is exactly what you are about to see the Fox bosses doing in this recording. It's not just Fox. Media across the board are in the practice of the journalism school definition of propaganda. These journalists never thought when they got into the biz that they'd actually be doing propaganda. But here we are. Let me read this again from the textbook. Propaganda selects facts or invents them to serve the real purpose, persuasion and manipulation. Then it goes on. Fiction invents scenarios to get a more personal impression of what it calls the truth. Journalism alone is focused on getting what happened down right. This is true if it be the work of a network TV news division or a lone citizen journalist blogging on the internet. And it is the first criterion by which any work claimed as journalism would be judged for competence. Okay, so it makes very clear that it doesn't matter what fancy call letters you have as a TV outlet. If you're not focused on getting the facts down right, and you're more focused on selecting or making up facts to persuade people to think a certain way and do certain things, then you're in the practice of propaganda rather than journalism. And that is why I would rather be a lone citizen journalist blogging on the internet, like this book talks about, than work for one of these corporations who's now obsessed with propaganda. You guys are being propagandized, and it is important to show these recordings now so that you know where the media is coming from. That this large group of people across America who were supposed to be the watchdogs on these government agencies, on these shot corporations, pharma corporations, they are no longer the watchdogs. They have aligned with those people, which opens the door for a lot of corruption. So because the media are turning a blind eye to your questions and concerns and saying our only goal is to convince you to get it in the arm, it is very important right now to know that opens the door for a lot of corruption. These companies and federal agencies know that they don't have watchdogs anymore in the media. So they can get away with whatever corruption they want, and nobody's digging it up and uncovering it. So just be aware that the allegiance of the media itself to these pharma companies and to the government has itself created more opportunity for the very corruption that viewers are concerned about, wondering if it is happening. The media doesn't want to look into whether it is happening, which means there's better incentive for that corruption to begin. Okay, and this, I'm showing you these recordings on the very week that we have this CNN headline. It says, FDA shot advisors vote to recommend shot to kids ages 5 to 11. So it says the shot advisors in the U.S. Food and Drug Administration voted 17-0 to recommend emergency use authorization of the shot in kids 5 to 11. Members of the FDA's Shot and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee agreed the benefits of putting the shot in young kids appear to outweigh the risks, but some members appeared troubled about voting to give the shot to a large population of younger kids based on studies of just a few thousand. Okay, so that is a CNN headline. And then we've got usatoday.com talking about the fourth shot should be received at least 6 months after the third. So this is CDC that they're quoting, giving new recommendations on adding more shots. The memes are coming true, you guys. So I want to get into these recordings. This was a meeting May 11th of this year, one of our regular morning editorial meetings at Fox. And my bosses were strategizing, not on digging up the truth or answering the viewers' questions. They were strategizing on how to manipulate and persuade viewers into doing something they don't want to do. This was just after authorization had happened for kids as young as 12 to get the shot. So my boss wanted to see how we can persuade families to submit their children to get that shot. She was advocating for kids to get the shot very young. And then her boss, so that was Susan Schiller you're about to hear from. Then her boss chimes in and says, yada, yada, we've done these persuasion stories in the past. We need to come up with something new. And then he, if we really want to convince people, he has a sales background. So of course he knows how to convince people. And he was chiming away. And this guy's not a journalist. He's the Houston station president underneath the big bosses in New York, people like Lachlan Murdoch are his bosses. So my boss's boss, and then his boss. Anyway, they all love the shots. And by the way, Fox News is also putting out this crazy propaganda. And I'll also roll a clip from Fox News, pushing people to get the shot as well. But this is Fox Houston Local. All Murdoch run stuff is the bottom line. And so my boss's boss chimes in on this call, and he says, look, we need to come up with something different. And then he suggests talking about, well, you might not be able to go back to work if you don't get the shot. If we do a story like that, it could move the needle to get more people to get it in the arm when they don't want to. So rather than being loyal to the viewers and answering their questions and concerns, it's like, screw you guys, we're going to brainwash you with this next news story. We just got to figure out the right topic for brainwashing. And then when it came time for pitches, I included my pitch in this series of sound bites too, because what our audience was actually buzzing about, if our bosses would even pay attention to the audience, like you're supposed to do in journalism, stay loyal to the viewers. The audience was buzzing about the fact that the CDC had just announced, look, we're no longer going to talk about breakthroughs. I'm talking people who've had the shot and still got the virus. We're not going to let you guys know all of the breakthroughs. The audience was creeped out by that. They're like, what are you guys hiding, CDC? It's making the audience more hesitant. So rather than jumping on that story and saying, what the heck is going on? Our viewers are concerned. Let's get answers. The bosses actually ignored that pitch I made and instead assigned me to the latest jobs report and how is job hunting in a dismal economy. Anyway, so I just want you to hear the strategy for propaganda behind the scenes yourselves, to see how the media are throwing journalism out the door in favor of the propaganda that we were told not to do in journalism.
On the pandemic, and I know, Maria, you've done a good job on this, but we really do need to do like another story about, I know we feel like we do it, but outreach with the vaccines in the Black community, the numbers are really, they're just not progressing. I looked last night and I was surprised at how little that chart is going up. And particularly, as we look at the children, right? Like, households, multi-generational households, what is their plan to try to get to some of these children?
I like an intelligent conversation before we run off and do another story that's going to come up with the same old nonsense and not really move the needle if that's the goal. We already know a lot of the reasons why the penetration is low. What I would tell you, I'm reading more and more recently about as people are planning to, return to work, I'm reading as much as 40% of the population that's not been vaccinated does not intend to at this point for various reasons. I'm talking about cross cultures, right? So that issue of returning to work and what may or may not be required in order to come to work is a conversation that's now bubbling up more and more. The idea of, will it be mandatory for you to get a vaccination and prove it to your employer in order to return to the building? So I think it's an interesting story, but I don't want to hear more of the same, because there's nothing new about why it is that some of these brown communities are not as vaccinated as others. One, it's accessibility, or the lack of in that instance. The other is misinformation, and or the core belief that, you're trying to screw me over again.
But the bottom line is, it is about education for some of these communities. And as children, as the researchers determined that some of the vaccination is safe for children, depending on ages, how do you get that message out there? The facts are that there is still a lot of disinformation or lack of information in these communities, Dart. And, if you look at the numbers, can you really, can you return to work if a large percentage of the population isn't vaccinated? And plus, a lot of people have gotten their first vaccine, they're not getting the second one. So what are the implications of that? So I just think that we need to not walk away from job finding sort of unique angles with the Asian community last week. You know, we have to look for some of those new angles for these other communities that may not be getting the service that they need.
People are buzzing about CDC now deciding this week they're not going to report all breakthrough cases of COVID-19 anymore. And hearkening back to the conversation we've just had, I think there's so many people from every race who are really leery and untrusting, and they want more transparency. So when they see the CDC saying we're not going to report every breakthrough case, they're like, what's going on? Why is that? And so I thought if we talk to Harris County Public Health, you know, because the CDC on its website talks about how, you know, states and localities are still going to be collecting every single breakthrough case, but CDC is not going to be reporting it on its website. But, you know, just maybe talk to local officials about that and get some questions answered, because a lot of people are untrusting.
I would say that the children issue is sort of the immediate topic. And I think there is confusion over, you know, where can we go? Where can we take our children?
The reality is, how do you go about changing somebody's belief, whether true or not? That's the issue here.
And we work on the Black community outreach. I don't think we're pinning down an angle on that. I think for today, Maria can do the 12-year-olds and when and where they're going to get it. But I think we need to figure out, so are we talking to everyday people? What would change your mind? Do we, and who are those people? You know, like I said, we've talked to every politician in the world and health expert. So who's going to talk to us about, what it would take to make them willing to get the vaccine? For today, Ivory, maybe she can do the getting jobs on the heels of what Biden said yesterday as well. What is a decent job offer?
And finally, I want to close with this clip that Fox News, the big guys, have been airing as well, trying to convince their audience nationally to get that in the arm.
America, we're in this together.
And if you can, get the vaccine.
For information on vaccine sites, visit the vaccine finder on the homepage of foxnews.com. It's